I very much look forward to hear a little bit from you too. This may be the one moment in your trip that we can have a discussion with our Chinese friends through me or directly. So to whom may I give the word first? Who wants to say something? Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for sharing your life's work with us. Whether we're new to the history of China or not, your scholarly wisdom and scholarship has certainly enriched my understanding of China, and for that I thank you. I just finished Simon Winchester's delightful book, The Man Who Loved China, which is very much the story of your friend and mentor, as you described him, Joseph Needham.
Joe Needham, yes.
And his lifelong love of China and his research and scholarship here. From an academic perspective, much of that book dwells on the question as to why China, over the last 400 and 500 years, sort of lost its reputation, lost its way with regard to innovation. Much of the earlier story chronicles the amazing innovation, innovative history here in China in medicine, science, and engineering. But then, prior to the last 30 years, China seemed to have gone into a slumber. At least that's the thesis of the book. I'm gathering from your commentary here today that you believe much of that slumber or that period of decline might have been a result of foreign aggression and subjugation. Is that fair to say? And if not, why then did innovation seem to shift over the last 400 and 500 years to Europe and the New World and away from China?
Well, thank you very much for this question. I can't say I was looking forward to it, but I'm very happy. I'm very happy to exchange. I have, of course, no clear answer. But someone I respect very much and who has been even a far more close friend and collaborator to Joe Needham is Nathan Sivan, now at the University of Pennsylvania. And he is still teaching, although he has reached retirement age. And he has written some very insightful responses to Needham's famous question. Why didn't the scientific revolution take place in China? Or did it? Because in fact, of course, it is far more complex. Sure, imperial decline, the fact that the power in China was taken over by the Manchus, who had not this high civilization background of the end of the Ming, but were very much against it, was very important. The fact, therefore, that what Joe Needham also stressed was that when you wanted to make a career in China, unlike in the Ming Dynasty, to be proficient and to be knowledgeable and to be inventive in technical or scientific ways wasn't an asset anymore. Only the more fundamentalistic knowledge of the classics, the reciting of the classics, the writing of classical Chinese, the literary skills opened the way to office and to coming ahead and getting ahead in life. And that, of course, was a major discouragement for the finer spirits of the nation. This is, of course, something a message we have to ponder. But it didn't say, and that is what Nathan Sivan brings out brilliantly, it didn't say that the Chinese had any inherent or hereditary or linguistic, because some people pretended that it was a question of language. In Chinese language you could not think logically and so on. Nonsense, of course. And the fact that this university now boasts so many Nobel Prize winners is, of course, already a proof of what I'm saying. But, of course, what is more interesting is the fact that when Western science was introduced, first of all by Matteo Ricci, who brought Euclidean mathematics to China and translated it, of course, that was extremely welcomed by the Chinese, as well as Western astronomy. And very soon, they were better than their European mentors. And not only they were better than the Chinese, their mentors, but they made a very important distinction. Because if you read Matteo Ricci's introduction to Euclid, he says, Euclid shows that God is a great mathematician and a great geometry, what do you say? In geometrics, you know, he planned the world. And he kind of mixes his own theology with what we call, well, just science. And the Chinese immediately saw through that. He said he's trying to amalgamate two things that are both respectful. They didn't disparage religion, no. But they said you can't mix these things. One is a matter of belief, and another one is a question of demonstration and logical thinking. And during already, when Ricci still was in China, a thinker from southern China, Li Zhi, from Quanzhou, wrote already a famous commentary and said, this is fine, he brings all this science, we very much welcome it. But the other thing, you know, it's not that I don't like it, I think it's interesting, Adam and Eve and the creation of the world and so. But we heard that already from the Arabs. We know that, and that's another way of thinking. That is something not the same. He made the clear distinction. So they did something that at that time in Europe, no one really, except Galilei perhaps, was able to say publicly. So this is one of the many, many questions. And I think today, I'm sorry, we won't say the last word about it, but anyway, thanks for you. Any other questions?
Thank you very much for your lecture. I enjoyed it immensely. This is not the question, but I heard tea became very popular among the Zen monks because the caffeine content helped the Zen monks to endure the long chants, and especially the meditation. They are not supposed to sleep. So it kind of fused between tea and the Zen monks. That's one thing I heard. My question is that sometimes Confucius teaching is considered as a religion, and sometimes it's considered as a philosophy. And I'm not playing the terminology, the semantics game here, but is it really a religion, or is this a philosophy? How is it considered in today's teaching? Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. It's a very important question, and my friend Professor Du Weiming from Harvard University, who is following in the footsteps of Kang Ye-wei, I showed him in our PowerPoint position. These were modern Confucian scholars who think that China should have a national religion again, and that Confucianism is the answer. I respect their endeavors. I wonder whether it is realistic to think so. And I do, and perhaps I'm a bit more conservative, I don't think it's completely doing what we call Confucianism, the thought of Kongzi as we know it, and as we can understand it through many versions of his sayings and his commentaries later. I don't think it's doing justice to something very fundamental in China. As I said, the five classics, who are supposed to have been the foundation, the Torah, to the Mishnah of Confucius, that is the commentary, the elaboration of Confucius, were all considered just as our own Pentateuch, with the rites, with ritual, with worship, with sacrifice. What Kongzi did was to elaborate a system of thought, an explanation giving meaning to this religious form of worship, behavior, and so on. He gave a new meaning to it. And the new meaning was that it all meant that you had to be a good person, that you should behave morally, that the state should not abuse of its power, that we should love each other and help each other. That was an elaboration based on the basis of religious practice. Much as in early philosophy, like Descartes, based his logical system on a theological background. We see the same thing very early in China. From the background of theological thought, a philosophy was born. Is it a philosophy? Is it just wisdom, sageliness? I don't think we should be so. There is some very philosophical way of thinking there. And it's absolutely clear that Confucius himself, and that you can make up from anything that has gone, made a clear distinction between the practice of religion and his own thought system. So therefore, thanking you for your question, I really think Confucianism is a philosophy.
Thank you for your thoughts today. Many people in America see China rising inexorably and inevitably to a position of dominant world power. First, do you see that as the future of China? And then, what are the major challenges China will have to negotiate to get there? And what are the circumstances that might interfere with China eventually achieving that position?
I'm sorry, you have to repeat, because the resonance here is very hard under this roof, so it didn't come over clearly. Could you reformulate once more, please?
Many people in America see China rising inexorably, inevitably to a position as a dominant world power. Do you see that as the future of China? And what are the major challenges China will have to negotiate, and what circumstances might interfere with China rising to that position of dominant world power?
Yes, thank you very much. We see a revival in the world nowadays of what 100 years ago was called the Yellow Peril. There is some kind of idea, wow, what's going to happen? In France, there was a statesman called Roger Perfit. I don't know if he has been much translated into English. He wrote one book after the other. When China stirs, the world will change. When China awakens, Napoleon had already said that too, you know. There's some myth. There's some great myth. One is the myth that China is the big market you just have to walk into, and you sell your stuff and you get rich overnight. Well, it isn't that easy, you know. China is a big market for people who know Chinese. And not only... And then I just don't just think the language, but also the culture and the people of China. People of China are not to be ordered around to manufacture goods for our thing. They are right to produce goods that are also useful to them. I'm sorry to say that. There are some things we have to learn still after all those years. The other myth is that China represents a danger. Now, I don't talk about ancient China, the 2,000 years before it became an imperial state, but I have shown you the pictures of the imperial palace. Is that a place of violence? Is that a place of aggression? Is that a place of extolling, conquering? No. There is a Chinese way of expansion. It is misunderstood. When I talk about all those Chinese restaurants and all those Chinese students, people are talking about the Chinese diaspora, right? Well, get that notion out of your mind, please. When you have a diaspora, like the Jews, you have lost your country. But the Chinese in the United States or in Canada, where they now are so predominant in Vancouver or something, or the Chinese in everywhere over the world, they haven't lost their country. They are part of a global expansion, but in a different way from our capitalist expansion. Our capitalist expansion from our corporations is from above, investing lots of money, sending high-paid people, expatriates who need their perks, their houses, their special schools, and all that. Costs a lot of money. Is it effective? Not really. The Chinese expansion is a Buddhist expansion. It's from under up. It's the poor guy who says, may I come please in? Nothing to eat at home? My mother hungry? I come, earn little money, send back home please? Huh? Okay. And then he comes, and he does all the work others perhaps did not want to do, like building all those railroads, and did it very well. They stand until today. They were very skilled workers, those Chinese who worked on the American railroads. And then they send their children to school, and then they build, they come up from above. That is a kind of peaceful expansion I think we should all welcome. And together they bring culture. They bring another food culture to China, to the United States. Was about time, perhaps. Huh? They bring another food culture, another way of eating. It's good for you. Okay, shall we call it a day? Thanks a lot. And have a good time in China.